Yo, come inside of me. I'm Tony. How are you? It's Wednesday. It's dry hump day. Let's get into it. How is your spirit? How is your vibe? Personally, I never wake up happy. I don't know. I think I've told you all this before over and over again, and it persists. It continues. I wonder what it's like to just wake up and be like, yes, life. I just wake up with such heaviness. Is it how I dream? Is it me? Is it Maybelline? Is it genocide? It could be any of those things. Also, I am noticing, just like people are yapping, people are talking, even though I feel on the one hand like, oh, like that. On the other hand, I'm like, okay, okay, some interesting stuff is happening here. I am obsessed with men right now, some really cool men. There are some men out here who are just giving me so much hope. It's amazing. So that is cool because my algorithm is now I'm in this new algorithm where it's showing me home footage of men abusing women. I'm not sure what happened to the algo that I'm in, but it's like I saw one video where there's this man and he's just like screaming at this woman for not folding his laundry, and she's like taking a nap after an 8-hour work shift, and she's like, I'm just taking a nap, I just worked for 8 hours, and he's like, fold my laundry. And it was, the home footage is disturbo. You know, it's kind of like how people like you porn, I guess. That's a thing, right? You porn. There is the intimacy of like, oh, we're just like regular people. We're not porn stars. We're just regular people fucking, and now you can really see yourself in it. Something about the home footage abuse videos that I'm watching, I'm like, wow, yowza, it's close. It is close to the heart. And you do find yourself saying, like, girl, like, I don't think you should stay with this guy. I think you should go. But then retrospectively, one has to think about their own life and how much we've tolerated. Oh, the amount of things that some people have said to me over my life that I've been like, oh, okay, it's alarming. Of course, I've also had reactions, but it's like the home footage. It's like, remember America's, wait, what was it? The home video that we would watch and we would all like laugh. America's Home Videos with Bob Saget. Yeah, and we'd all be like, ha ha ha. This is important work. I highly suggest you get into the algorithm of home abuse scenarios because, yowza, my butt mud coffee. It's coming in. The thing about the butt mud coffee is that once it starts coming into me, like I'm coming into you, I start to feel a will to live. I do. It is real, that will to live that's coming to me with the butt mud. The personality comes, I don't know. So I think everyone needs to be watching home abuse videos and seeing how they can see themselves in these videos. Maybe how they were parented, maybe the relationship they're in currently, maybe the relationship they were in the past. Because it's not like you're seeing these guys commit a crime. They're not committing a crime. They're not like taking the laundry basket and like pummeling her with it. But the emotional abuse is like, I don't think that is a crime that you can go to jail for. It's just like, oh, that sucks to experience. But emotional abuse over time feels like a crime. There we go. I think that was a sonnet, maybe a haiku. But so, okay, I wanted to talk about self-grape today. I had promised you this on last Wednesday or last Friday, probably both. I promised you all self-grape, and now we're going to talk about it. But I think it's interesting because the home abuse videos is interconnected with the concept of self-grape. So let's talk about, what is self-grape? What the fuck does this bitch mean by self-graping? It's not like you're taking your own hand and graping yourself. You're graping yourself with another person's body, okay? You're using, the other person's body is the tool of grape, but there is a self-grape that's happening because it's almost like their body is the mechanism of which the grape happens, but you are participating in the grape in the sense that you're like, I'm doing this to me. So this is very different than other kinds of grape, okay? Self grape, I am going to really talk about it in the sense of obligation sex. All right, and let's go into it. Because again, this isn't about victim blaming. This isn't about like you know, like it's complicated to talk about a self grape because it's like, am I going into the territory of blaming the victim or saying, you did this to you? No, absolutely not. It's not about what you're wearing. It's not about the like average arguments that people are making when they're like, you deserve to be graped. No. I'm going to give you a couple examples of a self grape and let's see how it resonates with you. Okay, example number one. I was in New York City and I was single and I went out dancing and I met a guy and he was super fun. I really liked his vibe. He was such a fun dancer. Like I was having so much fun dancing with this guy. We met at one club. He was like, let's go to the other club. And I was like, absolutely. We went to the other club. We're dancing, drinking, just having a great time. I am enjoying his company. We were really vibing on the dance floor, which like meant something to me. That was the last sip of coffee. Because you know me, I love dancing. All right, so then he invites me back to his house. I want to go back to his house. I'm excited. I'm having a great time. I get back to his house, and then I'm like, you know, you kind of like look at someone a little deeper, and you're like in their house. And it was like, look, he had a nice apartment in Soho. There was nothing wrong with his house. It was nice. It was like a nice loft. I just suddenly was like, oh, I'm not attracted to him anymore. He didn't do anything wrong. Nothing happened. I just wasn't like feeling it anymore. I was like, oh, maybe this was just like a fun person to go dancing with. And I didn't actually want to sleep with him, but now I'm here. So I did not say to this guy, I don't want to sleep with you anymore, my dude. I'm leaving, because that felt like super awkward. So I was like, well, okay, you've already like fucked a bunch of guys. You can just like fuck this guy. It doesn't matter. You know, I didn't want to. I didn't tell him I didn't want to. I don't even think I particularly acted as if I didn't want to. I didn't act it as if I was like, yes, I want this so bad. I just kind of became a little ambivalent. And it just kind of like happened. So I'm not saying that this dude had any idea what was going on in my brain. He did not know what was going on in my brain. The only thing he probably could have picked up on maybe was like a slight change of tone or a slight change of like connection. But I don't know, we were both drinking. He had just flown back from LA. So this was the other thing. So I slept with him and I like sleep there because it was late. It was very late. And I woke up to the most intense gagging. Like he was like really gagging on like huge wads of phlegm, like massive. And because it was a studio, the boundary between the bedroom and the bathroom was just not existent, you know? So I'm like listening to this gagging at like 6:30 in the morning. Like we probably slept like 2 hours and I'm like, holy fuck. And basically he had flown from LA and I guess he got sick. Or maybe he already was sick. I don't know, but the sickness hit him and he was like very sick. And I was like, ugh. You know, like it's hard enough to care for a sick person when you're like loving them. It's another thing to care for a gagging on phlegm stranger. And I was like, okay, bye. And I left at like 6:30 in the morning. And I think I went to my friend's house who had been up doing coke all night. And I went and hung out with her because she was still up doing coke. So that was actually great for me that she was still up doing coke because I didn't have to be like alone with myself at 7:15 in the morning, like still kind of drunk, still not sober, and having woken up after like a nice little self grape, you know? So I say self grape because I used his dick as a mechanism of my own grapey feeling. But I really did not blame this guy or think this guy as an individual had anything to do with my feeling of self grape. The culture is completely my feeling of self grape because why did I feel so obligated to a stranger to share my body with him? I genuinely was not afraid. I did not feel like if I told this guy, no, stop, he would have harmed me. I did not get that sense at all. There was no fear in my self grape. Zero fear. Except for I didn't want to hurt his feelings. Okay, so talk about codependent personality disorder, right? I didn't want to hurt this guy's feelings. This is a guy I don't know. I may not have hurt his feelings. He may have not even felt that great. He may have been like, thank the heavens, I'm about to gag. It's best that you leave. Who knows what obligation he was feeling? But the fact that we were together in his apartment at 3 a.m, there was an obligation I felt. I felt I owed him something. That is grape culture. Do you get what I'm saying? The fact that we feel like we owe someone our bodies is grape culture. The fact that I didn't feel comfortable just being like, oh, hey, dude, this was a super fun night. I actually don't want to sleep with you right now, but I had such a great time. The fact that, like, the biggest medicine men need in life and to be taught by their parents from a very young age is that sexual rejection is not a rejection of your heart. It's not a rejection of your humanity. It is not a rejection of your value or your sense of self. It is a rejection of your dick at that moment. And that is totally fine. And I think that men have to like be much more supported and practiced around dealing with sexual rejection because it's really dangerous when they aren't. Okay, so let's talk about another kind of self-graping that I've experienced. This one is like countless times I've self-graped in this way. Being in a relationship with someone who you are having consensual sex with. You have sex with this guy, you're signed up to fuck this guy, you're in a relationship with him. However, you don't want to fuck him every time he wants to fuck. All right? So there is this kind of like, this acquiescing that happens. Again, I go back to the feeling of obligation. And you're like, well, if I already fucked this guy, I guess I can fuck him again. And if he does the right things, I'll eventually get into it. Okay. This feeling is not enthusiastic consent. It is apathetic consent. But I think this happens in relationships all the time. And I think it happens to both genders. I am 100% sure there's times when men are like, I don't really want to fuck, but they feel the obligation. So they're like, okie dokie. And because we know how to like tickle each other's genitals in a way that eventually will like elicit blood flow, we're like, okay, I got into it eventually. Eventually I came, so that was fine. Was it? Was it fine, or was it a self-abandonment? Was it a self-betrayal? Was it just kind of like, and also not everyone is coming when they have sex. So a lot of times you're just like offering your body as a cum vessel for him to come, and you're not even coming, you know? You can be a come quick Sally and come, but that doesn't mean it didn't feel like a self grape. You know, just because you come doesn't mean it doesn't feel grapey. It doesn't feel like an abandonment. And grapey is an abandonment. It is lacking enthusiastic consent, right? However, with these circumstances, with these partners, boyfriends, people who I was like consensually sleeping with, when I did have this obligatory sex, was I explicitly clear? Was I like, no, I don't want to? Absolutely not. Well, but wait, did I tell you? I feel like there are times where I've been like, no, and they're like, come on, and there's like the guilting process. But I wasn't like, no, no, absolutely not, no. No, I wasn't like that, but I was like, no. And they're like, come on. And I'm like, no. And they're like, come on. And I'm like, okay, you know? That I feel like that happens so often. And then I think back to like Married with Children. Remember that show? Maybe I don't know if it's your generation or not, but it was like Peg, the wife, always wanted sex from her husband, who was like never interested. That was its own like thing to unpack, like how he was controlling the dynamic of the relationship by rejecting her. However, like him kind of like begrudgingly going up the stairs to like have sex with her while she was like enthusiastic about it, that is like a very grape culture-y thing. Like when one person wants it significantly more than the other and the other is just kind of like okie dokie, it's problematic. It's problematic. It is asking your partner to self-grape in order to like please you. It's lacking a curiosity about your partner's experience. And I think the thing is that we as a culture, as a society, in marriages and partnerships, in whatever dynamic you're in, polyamorous, it doesn't matter. The reason why like enthusiasm is so crucial is because that is where both parties are equally invested in the intimate process. There isn't a convincing, there isn't a coercing, there isn't a guilting, there isn't a like, well, I'll get you into it, baby, kind of thing. This, I think it's so common. And the problem with like sexuality, desire is I think it is very, very elusive. It is very finicky. It is very, it plays hide and seek, right? So if you're a male body has a 24-hour hormonal cycle, right? So every 24 hours he's cycling through his hormones, where the female has a 28-day, 1 month hormonal cycle. So a man has his own menses and menstruation and all of the things, but every day kind of. Women are going through their cycles every month with her menses and her menstruation. See what I did there? Get it? Menses, menstruation, menses, menstruation. They're all about men. Point being is that desire is hyper connected to what's going on with your hormonal state. And if you're in a heterosexual relationship, there's going to be a lot of fluctuation. Also, if you're in a lesbian relationship, a lot of fluctuation. Doesn't mean you're necessarily on the same cycle. Absolutely not. In a perfect world, you'd be perfectly synced, sure. In a homosexual relationship between two men, doesn't mean you're cycling through your hormones exactly synchronistically. It does not. So we have a lot of fluctuation and we're not always in sync, in hormonal sync with our partners. And sometimes that means that one person's gonna want it more than the other, And you get where I'm going? So when we do the obligation, we're like, okay, they really want it at this moment. Yeah, it can lead to a lot of harmful scenarios, I think, where especially if someone is like more enthusiastic, more like into it, then they might be asking for things that the other partner really doesn't even want to do. Like, let's say you want to do butt stuff, but like your partner isn't even into the regular positions, and then you're like, but now we gotta like upgrade, and it's like, what? I barely want to do first base, and now we're talking about seventh base. Like, what's happening? A lot of like forcefulness can happen when we're in obligation sex mode. Also, okay, listen, trauma responses, we've talked about this. I'm going to remind us, a trauma response is to freeze. A trauma response is to flop. A trauma response is to fawn. So if you're dealing or you're in a relationship with someone who's had sexual trauma, P.S., basically everyone, especially if you are in a female body, but the sexual trauma is very common with men as well. We know this, and all genders. You can have a trauma response of freezing, fawning, or flopping, which is like can be confused when you're having sex, because like, oh, you're laying here, you're not fighting me off, probably you're into it, which is again why there has to be like checking in. And a lot of people think checking in isn't sexy, like, oh, it's not hot to like check in all the time. And granted, there are moments where like both parties are like eating each other and there's like a ferocious like werewolf that comes out, and it's pretty obvious the level of matched enthusiasm, okay? that happens. But when you're feeling, I think that like we have to be more in tune with our telepathy, one, and we also have to be in tune with ourselves to feel what it feels like to be kind of like pushing ourselves onto someone energetically. Like, can you feel that in a conversation? Can you feel that when you're like driving? Like, can you feel when you are pushing yourself onto someone and they're like backing off a little bit? We have to be able to feel that in everyday life in order to feel that in the bedroom. And if you're like, I don't know if I can feel that, well, time to start asking. Time to start having like those awkward conversations where it's like, oh, you sure you want this? Are you sure you want this? And if the person is trepidatious at all, being like, totally cool, let's pause, let's not do this, let's do something else, let's connect in a different way. Because when you're like, when you act in a way that is victimizing yourself because you're getting sexually rejected or your partner is sexually ambiguous about the moment, that's going to make them fawn if they are in a trauma response. And no, it's okay, we can do it. I have definitely done that so many times. The fawning I've done when I've been like, and the person's like, oh, and then I'm like, oh, it's okay, like, I feel for my past self and my past genitals, because I wasn't into it. And I think for me now in my current mode, especially, and honestly, I'm going to be real with you, I didn't really start committing to full consensual, enthusiastic consent on my behalf, like basically demanding that I feel like 100% the only time I have sex, I'm 100% into it. I didn't really commit to that to my body until I started Grape Culture, the show. Okay, here's a little plug. Why am I talking about grape all the time? Because I wrote a show with Sarah, my girl Sarah, who I do gnarly girls with. She's from the South. I have actually a really good Southern accent sometimes. I lose my accent constantly. Anyway, Sarah, Sarafina Supernova. Follow her. Get into her. We do gnarly girls together. We perform Grape Culture together. We're coming to Boston. We're coming to Philly. We're coming to Seattle. I think we're coming to Portland. I'm going to confirm today. Hot. Grape Culture Healing is the website. You will find tickets there. This is why I'm talking about this constantly, because I did this show, and it's really through this show that I was like, I've self-graped countless times. I've been drugged and graped. Yes, that happened, but the self-grape, I was just like, wow, there's a lot. We have a scene about self-grape, which is why I'm also plugging the show. But it's a lot. And so once I started doing the show and talking about this and making art about it and blah, 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 I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to not self-grape ever again. And wow, what a change. And it is a change. And you know what? My partner had to learn to genuinely not take things fucking personally. I think that there's a roulette to our sex life. He has to ask lots. He asks lots. And then every once in a while I'm like, yeah. And then he's like, whoa, didn't expect that, But we both have to he is welcome to ask. He can ask when he feels like asking, I'm not asking him not to ask, but I am asking him to understand that a lot of these asks are they're going to get a no. And now I feel like it's a good groove of ask and see what happens. But it's not serious. I think what we've been able to establish is a really cool vibe of honesty, of oh, I'd like to, respect. I'm respecting that you'd like to. Not into it. My head's not in the game. Okay. And then every once in a while, I'm like, yes, my head is in the game, but not until 8 p.m. I love to schedule sex. This man and his patience with my scheduling. I will be like, yes, but in 2 hours, because I have to finish my work. If I have work on my mind, I can't get into it. I cannot get into it because I'm thinking about emails. I'm thinking about flyers. I'm thinking about things I have to do. But when we get going, it is enthusiastic. It is exciting. because we both want to be there. And sometimes also, P.S., he can be like, I'm down. And I could be like, okay, in 2 hours. And he can be like, that doesn't work for me. 2 hours doesn't work for me. I have rehearsal. I have this. I have that going on. And guess what? 2 hours might come and we might change our minds and be like, actually, no, I'm in a work zone. Let's reschedule. This is the kind of open communication we need to have in a relationship where it's not personal. It actually is about respecting desire, respecting that it's finicky, respecting that it's elusive, respecting that it might change. You might have a plan for 8 p.m. and then you might not feel like it. Still okay. Still fucking fine. And sometimes, some rare occasions, it can happen just right now, just like a spontaneous little bip bop, boop de boop. It's not happened. It can happen, but it's got to be, the stars have aligned and you're like, woohoo, the stars have aligned. And I think that is what has to happen in relationships, is this type of like banter. We must have sexual banter with each other where we're like able to be really fucking honest and not guilt each other, not obligate each other, not pressure each other, not take it personally. I mean, I know I'm maybe talking in circles, but I think it's very real. And if there is like a genuine, like, I don't want to sleep with this person that's been going on for a while, there's something to investigate. Yeah, I do think that like the one thing that I am clear about is that there have been the relationships that I know that are dead. I'm like, I don't want to sleep with this person at all. Not ever. Not like, oh, I want to sleep with you, just not at this moment. I do. I enjoy sex with you, just not right now. That's a different vibe. That's like, the sex is enjoyable. I want that. The desire is there. It's just like, I have to respect the timing of the desire. That is, again, a mysterious muse that comes as it pleases, But there are some times where you're just like, oh, the desire is gone. And that has to be addressed. That is deeper, that is a deeper thing. Because I do think the other thing, it's like going back to the story of me and that guy in the beginning, and then I'm going to end this podcast, is that like, we were maybe supposed to be friends or collaborators. I think he was like a filmmaker. I think there was like another relationship we were supposed to pursue because we did genuinely have this deep connection. However, because we were both in this like grapey culture of like man, woman, alone together, we're heterosexual, we should fuck. We graped ourselves from the possibility of forming a different kind of relationship that may have been like much more beneficial to us both, much more healing to us both, much more meaningful to us both. But instead, we had this like sexual encounter, waking up with gagging, never saw the guy again, don't even fucking remember his name. But I remember his essence, and I'm sad that they didn't have. Well, I wish this guy somehow, if you've ever heard this story from the opposite end of the guy who's like, I woke up gagging from my flight from LA, lived in New York, this is probably around 2007. I'd love to know this guy. I would love to reconnect with this guy. I wonder how I could ever make that happen, because he was a dope man. We went dancing, we went to Butter, and then we went to Beatrice. Wouldn't it be so fun if I could find this guy? He really was a delight. And I hope that he's not gagging on his own balls of phlegm anymore. Anyway, long story long, this podcast is over. I hope it was helpful to you. I hope it was beneficial to you. I also think you should listen to this podcast with your partner, just because I think this is a good conversation starter. And it doesn't have to be weird. It doesn't have to be awkward. It's not like you have to be like with your partner, like, I've self-graped with your dick constantly and I want to stop. I mean, you can say that. You can absolutely say that, actually. You should say that. Why did I tell you not to say that? Say that. Or you can say, I don't want to self-grape. Or you could say, let's talk about self-graping or obligation sex. Maybe you feel more comfortable with that. Let's talk about this concept of obligation sex. But listen to this together with a partner so you can have the conversation, so your sex life can be more yeah, instead of like, because the problem with the obligation self-graping that happens in relationships, if it happens too many times, you really will lose, the body won't trust the partner anymore, and there'll be like a shutting down, and you don't want that to happen with your partner. I think I let that happen with a partner. I did too many self-grape obligation sex, and then my body completely shut down, and then I was like, yeah, I can't. Never again. It became a never again. So if you're worried about that happening, start talking about it now. Send this to your friends, send this to your partner, send this to your mother and your father and your daughter and your sons. everyone, yeah, I'll talk about teenagers. I mean, obviously I can go on and on and on about this. I'm trying to end this podcast, but as a teenager, the amount of self-grape I did, I didn't want this guy to finger blast me, but like, okay, we're in a park and he wants to. I didn't want this guy's dick in my mouth, but like, he seems to be really into it, you know? All the things I did because I thought I was supposed to. Not because I felt like I was in danger, but because I thought I was supposed to. It's because I thought it's what he expected of me and I didn't want to hurt his fucking feelings. That is a codependent personality disorder when you feel responsible for another person's feelings to the point where you sacrifice your own well being for their perceived tantrum, you know? And I think that's why we really have to get hip with the consent conversation with children, with teens, because that's where it starts. It starts with the teenagers. I mean, look back at your own teen life. Did you pressure people into making out with you? Did you guilt them into making out with you? Did you be a victim so they would make out with you and feel bad? Did you experience any of those things? Did you begrudgingly give someone your body because you're like, I don't want them to feel bad? You know? And it's not about shame. It's not about blame. This is a culture. That's why the show is called Grape Culture. But we have to face what happened to us. We have to be honest with ourselves. We have to be honest about what we've done to others. We have to be honest about what we have had happen to ourselves in order to heal. Healing does not happen in a vacuum of self-denial. It happens within a platform and a container and a foundation of self-awareness and genuine reflection, you know? So we do have to look back at our past, especially if you grew up in the 80s and 90s and the 2000s and the 2010s and the 2020s. If you grew up here on planet Earth, you're going to have to look at your relationship to obligation sex, obligation sexual activity, whether you are participating it from either side. 100% you've experienced this in your life. There is not one person who has not experienced this. I refuse to believe that one person, unless you're asexual and have never had any sexual encounter, you have experienced this. And even if you've never had a sexual encounter, you've experienced this in some other way with bodily autonomy. So it is relevant. Okay, I feel like I've been chit-chatting for a long time and I should let y'all go. Let me know if you want to talk about this more. Please email me your questions to comeinsideofmepodcast@gmail.com. Support the fucking Patreon. The Patreon is important to me and to you and to our quantum entanglement. There is a lot of cool shit on the Patreon. Okay, you get to support me for $5. That's dope because you're absorbing my content. And I do think that when you pay for the content you absorb, it actually gives it value in a way that isn't just like taking it for granted. Okay. And I'm not just like saying that. I've really started to think about, like, there's this guy, I love the Emerald. I love the fucking Emerald. It's an amazing podcast. And I think the guy who does the Emerald puts a lot of work into it. And he's pretty cunty. I really like him. He has like a little edge to him and he's talking about really interesting stuff. I highly recommend the Emerald. It's like my favorite podcast. I also love the telepathy tapes. But the Emerald guy was like, he gave a pitch about supporting his Patreon where I was like, holy fuck. I felt terrible about myself. He was like, you know, he was like, you're taking from me and you're not giving anything back. I don't remember what the hell this guy said, but I became like a $30 member or $40 member or something. I don't even, whatever he's even offering me, I'm like not even interested in, to be honest. I'm like, I don't care about his study group, not because I couldn't learn anything, but because I am obsessed with my own thoughts. However, I pay for his study group, that tier, because I was like, this guy does bring a shit ton of value to my life. Like his podcast is the tits. So I think that's why it's important to like have an exchange sometimes. It's because it's an energetic valuing. And yes, capitalism is caca and it's bullshit. But if you can support the podcast, I feel energetically valued by you. And that does mean something. It's not meaningless. It's actually really, really meaningful. Even though capitalism is a lie and money is a lie, it's energy. Oh, that reminds me of a video I wanted to repost that I thought was really good. I should repost it. Okay, what else was I gonna say? One more thing. Oh yeah, I went on and on about the Patreon. Listen to the Emerald. It really is an amazing pod. Oh yeah, I do one-on-one somatic sessions. They are really good. All right, I'm not fucking around. I'm telling you they're really good. We will look at your body, we will work with your body, we will move with your body, we move collectively, you will leave a different person. I actually guarantee that. I also do one-on-one creative coaching if you want to get into your creative self and figure out how to make it more of a practice, more of a habit, or potentially a career. And then if you get into my creative container, we can do collaborations where I'll help like promote your work, unless it's like incredibly problematic to me morally, which would just be like supporting ICE or genocide or the oppression of women or gay people or the different races. Anything that isn't racist or misogynist or grapey or having to do with forced immigration, or having to do with like kidnapping children or graping children or Epstein's list, anything that is not that, I am here to support your work. Okay, I love you. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.